1980s, quite possibly one of the worst times in gaming. There were many reasons why gaming was doing terribly at this time. One of the main reasons was, well, most of the games were kind of shit. I'm specifically talking about two games. The Atari port of Pac-Man, and one of the most infamous games of all time, E.T. for the Atari 600. Pac-Man was just a prototype that was just not ready, and E.T., of course, was just a pretty bad license game. Yeah, as well as a bunch of other garbage, it left a pretty bad taste in customers' mouths. Nowadays, there's usually only 3 console choices: PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. But imagine back in the day, you had like 80 consoles that played the same terrible games. Obviously, terrible games and terrible consoles led to the video game crash of 1983. Enter Nintendo. By this time, Nintendo was just moving out of the toy industry and into the video game market, but because the American industry was sort of eating itself alive, they decided to redesign their Japanese Famicom console to look more like a toy, creating what we know in America as the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES for short, launching one of the most influential and greatest games of all time, Duck Hunt. This is some stupid little game with a fat Italian man. I'll be playing the game on a Nintendo Entertainment System with my PS4 controller, so I can play the game in just about almost the best way possible. Such a simple control scheme. You use the D-pad on the controller to move left and right, and down to sometimes crouch. Use the A button to jump, and the B button to gain speed. These controls are extremely simple nowadays, but for the time, it was probably one of the biggest leaps in gaming. There's just one problem with the controls. They're stiff as hell. It's kind of hard to explain. When you jump in the air, the momentum when you're running and walking stays when you jump. So when you jump, you better know where you're gonna land, because you're not gonna take it back. You can barely move in the air. On the upside to the simple controls, it is pretty easy to teabag. I guess that's a plus. Power-ups! Unlike in the later Mario games, there are only 3 power-ups in this game. Technically 4, but we'll get to that. The Super Mushroom. The first power-up you ever see in the game. And, well, one of the, if not the most iconic power-up in gaming. What does it do to learn this legendary status? It makes you bigger and break blocks. Yeah, that's it. For being the first power-up in the franchise, though, that gives it an iconic status alone. It doesn't really need to be anything else. It just needs to be simple, most players could understand. The Fire Flower. Another one of the most iconic power-ups in the series, and to this day is still arguably one of the best. You press the B button to shoot fireballs to kill most enemies in one hit. Man, I'm gonna say iconic a lot. Next up, we got the motherfucking... It's cool, I guess. It's a pretty rare power-up. I only got it like 5 times in my entire playthrough. It makes you invincible for like 10 seconds. Yeah. And finally, we have the 1-Up Mushroom. It gives you another life. What do you expect me to say? That's it. That's what these power-ups are. Simple little upgrades for the player. And honestly, that's all this game needs. They work how they're supposed to work. Enemies. You can't have a game without punching bags to kick the absolute shit out of. The Goomba, the series' first and most well-known enemy. How do you beat it, you may ask? Yeah. The Koopa Troopa. You stomp on their heads. But, when you stomp on them, they go into their shell, and you can kick them. So they are different from Goombas. Heck, you're even able to kill Goombas and more Koopas if the shell hits them. Koopas are the most diverse foes in the game. Red ones don't fall off the edge. Some of them have wings. The green ones, oh god, the green ones, they are annoying. They can jump almost as high as you, and usually they're placed on higher places compared to you. It makes sense, but you know, I still fucking hate them. Red Koopas with wings just fly up and down. They're pretty boring, to be honest. The Beetle, just like the Koopa, but they're smaller. Oh, and they're invincible to fireballs. They're fine, I guess. Piranha plants go up and down from pipes, and you can kill them with fireballs. That's it. Oh yeah, same thing with the fireballs that go up and down in Bowser's Castle, except they don't die in one hit with fireballs because they're fireballs. Cheeps. They're just walls in the water for you to avoid, but they are probably one of my favorite enemies in the game, mainly because of levels like 2-3 and 7-3. In these levels, the fish jump out of the water to try and kill you. It's really fun dodging these enemies. It gives me like a bullet hell type feeling. It's just fun to run through these levels and not lose any speed at all. It's also kind of fun to kill the enemies by jumping on them when they're trying to kill you. Speaking of bullet hell, or rather just bullets, the bullet bills. They usually get shot from cannons here. Usually they just shoot forward at your direction, but since they're really slow, it's pretty easy to dodge them. But just like Cheeps, they get really interesting in some levels. Usually they put multiple bullet bill cannons near each other, so multiple bullet bills will appear. They're still slow, but now there's a bunch of them coming at you. And now that there's multiple enemies and bullet bills coming right at you, it feels like an actual bullet hell. And although I'm not a fan of this game's controls, it's pretty fun in these small sections. Is there someone I'm forgetting? Just like... Oh, yeah. Lakitu. That son of a bitch. He's usually on top of the screen, flying, throwing spinies at you. They're just beetles, but they can be killed with fireballs. Yeah. Oh yeah, Lakitus, depending on the level, can be really annoying. But, again, in some levels, when you get to the top, you have a high enough advantage to kill them. They're gone from the level until they come back a few seconds later. Yeah, they kind of suck in my opinion. There are 8 worlds in the game with 4 levels in each of them. But you'll probably realize into World 3 that you're just playing the same levels over and over and over again. Some of them just being a bit worse. Some of them being a bit harder. Some of them just being a bit easier. But overall, I'd say just stop by World 3, because it just stops getting fun. You know, I'm starting to realize it's honestly pretty hard to review old games like this. You know, like NES, Atari games. Because, let's be honest, most of the games back in that era were kind of terrible, or boring, or just generally bad. For its time, it was revolutionary. Probably one of, if not the greatest game of its time. But nowadays, for a lot of people, including me, it's just not that fun. The controls are clunky, it's extremely simple, the bosses are bad, really bad, the music is simple. The music! I forgot about the music! I wonder why. The music's fine. The music's fine. Nothing's wrong with the music, it's just... everything is so simple. I just can't enjoy this game. In my opinion, I just don't think it's a good game. It has not held up. It just hasn't held up. So, for everything I just said, I think the game's a 4 out of 10. I can't deny how important this game was for the industry. But let's be honest, who is going to play this game if they're not going to review, speedrun, or just marathon all of the Mario games? Or if you're just a nostalgic for this game. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Hammer Bros! I forgot about the Hammer Bros. They're fucking easy. My god, people complain about the Hammer Bros so much in all of these games. And listen, when I was a little baby boy, yeah, I complained about them too. They used to be some of my least favorite enemies of any platformer. But for me, they're honestly pretty fun. If not some of the most fun enemies in the game. Super Mario World. I probably should have covered the Mario games before. Super Mario World was the fourth installment in the Super Mario Bros. Series, releasing on the Famicom in 1990 and later releasing in 1991 on the SNES. By this point, the series was starting to stagnate. Consumers and customers wanted something different. Enter Sega.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendo?
By this point in time, Sega wasn't really doing that well. The Sega Master System wasn't really doing that well compared to the NES. Sega's mascot at the time, Alex Kidd, wasn't nearly as appealing as Mario, Mr. Video himself. They needed someone new, a new mascot for the new console, the Sega Genesis. They needed something that could be easily recognizable. How about a fat guy in his pajamas? Nah, no. What about a furry? Maybe a rabbit. Yeah, you could probably use ears to fucking grab onto stuff like ledges or ladders. Oh, no, fuck that. Save that for some weird looking star or something that we're gonna use later. Okay, new idea. What about a hedgehog? Yeah, since it's a hedgehog, maybe we can have it like roll down hills in a ball. Oh, and make it blue. That's basically how Mr. Needle Mouse himself was born. Sonic the Hedgehog, released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis and Sega Mega Drive. This game started a long-running franchise with multiple sequels, spin-offs, shows, comics, and even movies. When it comes to this franchise's quality, we'll get to that later in this retrospective. So, Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't really have that much of an introduction. We start off in Green Hill Zone, and just man, what a perfect way to start this game off. I love how colorful everything looks. The light blue waterfalls, the checkerboard floor patterns, and the weird ass looking palm trees. I don't know, it just looks a bit off to me. It's not bad at all. It looks great. Some of the flowers even bop to the song too. Sonic himself? Man, this is how you make an iconic character. He has a mix of being adorable, especially in the Japanese art, but he also has this mix of a bit of just a rad, cool, and edgy personality with some of his animations that really make him stand out compared to other characters like Mario or Mega Man. As we continue throughout the level, we see these hills here. If we hold down on these hills, we start rolling down the hill. This is the main control style of the game, momentum. This is what made this game so special. It's physics-based platforming. You see, momentum allows you to roll down hills and gain speed. With enough speed, you're able to roll up bigger hills and even jump off some of them to get to higher platforms and areas of the level. Speaking of higher areas, the higher you are in the level, the harder it will be. But it's much faster. With all of this combined, this makes Green Hill Zone a super fun level to traverse. But keep in mind I only said Green Hill. There are 6, worlds in the game, with a 3-act structure in them. In my opinion, all of the third acts suck in this game. They're just boring retreads of the first 2 acts. I am really glad they changed it to a 2-act structure in later games. Okay, by the end of Act 3, we get to these 2 small platforms and... Who the fuck? Why are we fighting this egg-shaped asshole? Oh, well now, this is why we're gonna talk about the story for a bit. You see, I didn't talk about the story of Mario in my first video because, well, What story?
Mario jumps at the turtles. He kills the King of Koopa. He saves the rabbit. He saves the rabbit and he kisses her.
It's like, what is it to talk about? The game takes place on South Island, a mysterious piece of land that doesn't stay in place. Yeah, it just like moves around. Magic, I guess. Sonic himself comes from a place called Christmas Island. That's why his shoes are red and white. He left Christmas Island because he wanted to explore the world. That's Sonic's backstory. What's Christmas Island? Why is he able to go fast? Who knows? Who cares? We don't need to know who or what Sonic is at this point. Everything important about Sonic's life takes place after this game. It kind of makes this game sort of Sonic's backstory, Sonic's origin story, sort of. While exploring the world, presumably riding a plane, he comes across South Island and decides to land there. While exploring the land, he finds this fat fuck who keeps kidnapping animals. The man who would eventually become his long-life enemy is named Dr. Ivo Eggman. Dr. Eggman. When destroying a badnik, a little animal comes out. So he's kidnapping these animals to power these robots. Go stop him. For the amount of time it took me to explain this, you probably wouldn't understand or care about this story because of how simple it is. But I like it enough. It's simple. And it works so we can get more invested into kicking this fat asshole's asshole. Oh right, this is a video game. Green Hill's first boss is easy. I mean, obviously it's the first boss of the game. But like, it's just not fun. Like, at all. In fact, just about all of the bosses suck in this game. But we'll get back to that later. Next up. Okay, let's get to Marble Zone. You would expect these levels to be just as fun and exhilarating as Green Hill, right? Let's start with the positives. Just like Green Hill, I love how it looks. The blue sky looks good, and especially all like the H and stuff that's in the X. That's it. That's really it. This game just takes a complete nosedive for the worst, and it just never recovers. The beginning of the game teaches you that if you use momentum to get through hills and loops, you'll be rewarded by getting to the end of the level faster by going through the highest parts of the level, and just that general feeling of going fast. Marble Zone teaches you what you're actually gonna go through the game. Don't go fast. Oh man, just having to wait on these stupid fucking blocks. These acts are just nothing but waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. If you're extremely impatient like me, just run through the level if you have a shield or rings because you'll have invincibility for a bit, allowing you to skip this part of the level. Like, who thought it was even remotely okay to put this here? We get to the end of Act 3, we see Eggman again, and it sucks. Next level. Next up, Springer's. Whoa! This level looks great. It's probably my favorite level. Aesthetically. I really think Springer really showcases everything I love and hate about this game. It has a bunch of these springs that give you a boost of speed when going up hills or curves. But then there's just these goddamn bumpers everywhere. Most of the time, they're fine. The game's just making sure you're paying attention when playing. But some sections are really fucking annoying. Having them all close together and stuff. And these slow ass fucking boxes. It kills any flow the level had at all. Besides the fucking boxes. I really got nothing else to say about the level. Nothing else. It's a fine level, I guess. Oh, I got one more thing to talk about. It's not about the level, it's more about the physics of the entire game. Obviously, when you're holding the D-pad or stick left or right, you move in that direction to gain speed. But if you're holding left or right while going downhill or moving with the spring, something activates. It's called a speed cap. A speed cap, well, caps your speed when going too fast. Yes, in this game, where the main gimmick is to go fast, they added a speed cap. Most of the time, you won't really notice, but there are some sections like these where they're really noticeable. When moving towards the spring, it pushes me forward, so in my head I'm thinking, hey, I'll just hold right. But my speed instantly decreases once I start holding right. When I'm not holding any direction or just holding down, the speed from the spring is kept. I am just so glad this was taken out in later games. As we get to the end of Act 3, we meet Eggman again. This boss is slightly more interesting than the last two, so we'll talk about it a bit more. He has a big spike on his vehicle where he can slowly take the blocks that you're standing on. If you're fast enough, you can get multiple hits on him. You know, I'm just starting to realize while recording and writing this, there's really not much to talk about with this boss. Next up,
My name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be right back in my hometown with my new family. My name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be right back in my hometown with my new family.
fuck me. This is it. This is the worst level of the game. One of the worst Sonic levels. One of the worst fucking levels I've ever played in a platformer. I deeply hate Labyrinth Zone with a passion. It's the prime example of what's wrong with this game. This game's problem is not just it punishes me for going fast. You see, its biggest problem is that it's just not very replayable. Obviously, when you play a game multiple times, you start to get better and better at the game. And the better you get, the faster you go through the game. In later Sonic games, your skill is rewarded with seeing multiple pathways and skips through the levels. Where Sonic 1 succeeds with the skill gap is in levels like Green Hill, Spring Yard, and Starlight, which I'm going to talk about later. It's just really fun to blast through these levels over and over again once you've learned all the multiple pathways and skips throughout the level. But in every other level, you're just going through these long, boring, and tedious sections that almost last as long as all the good levels. Labyrinth Zone is one of the biggest reasons I just don't like to revisit this game. Okay, so now we can move on to a good level now. Hey, just like Eggman. Now we move on to Starlight Zone. I've seen a lot of videos talking about Sonic 1 online, and this is the level that gets the most praise. In my opinion, the aesthetics and music of Green Hill still makes that my favorite. But I'm not gonna lie, Starlight is still really good. Talking about aesthetics, god damn! I love the starry night sky and the light coming from the buildings, and oh man, the music! It just feels magical. In fact, this game has great music. Sonic games are known for having great soundtracks after all. Green Hill just gives me this feeling of great joy when blasting through the level. Marble Zone is also really good. Spring Yard Zone might be my favorite. It gives me a major casino vibe. Even Labyrinth ain't that bad either. For better or for worse, it really does fit this slow-ass level. I don't really know what else to say about Starlight. I just really like it. Anyways, Starlight is still really good. There are so many little shortcuts and paths you can take while speeding through the level. I just realized Starlight and Green Hill are some of the only levels with loops. I guess that's why these two are considered the best and most well-designed levels. Oh, there are these stupid fucking spiky ball enemies and these damn fans. They don't ruin the level or anything, but these things are why I like Green Hill just a tiny bit more than Starlight. There's also these seesaws with spiky balls that are incorporated in the boss. Speaking of which, Robotnik throws down these balls, which are now bombs, onto the seesaws, in which you can throw them back up or allow you to attack Eggman. It's probably my favorite boss in the game because, well, you kind of had to like think when you're fighting him. Don't get me wrong, it's not amazing or anything, but I think it just utilizes the gimmick like pretty decently. Now we finally move on to Scrap Brain Zone. Fuck! This level fucking sucks! I know it's the last set of stages, but it's less of a difficulty spike and more of just really annoying. You have these spinning platforms which aren't too bad. There's also these disappearing blocks which are a bit annoying, but they're not the worst. In Act 2 they introduce saw blades and spiky balls, and like, you just have to wait and wait and wait and wait and fucking wait! It's just the culmination of everything I just don't like in the game. Scrap Brain is literally the definition of not having fun. Okay, time for the final Eggman fight. Oh yeah, Act 3. So as we drop into Wait, this is just fucking Labyrinth Zone again! Luckily, you can basically just skip through the level. Finally. The final boss. What an epic conclusion to this tedious-ass game. Oh, the boss is fine, I guess. We end the game off with a tiny little cutscene. And that was Sonic the Hedgehog. I said we'll get to that later! So, what did I think of Sonic 1? It kind of fucking sucks. It's not terrible or anything. It's just that almost every other game in the franchise completely updates this game for the better. I think the game isn't really that fun to come back to. It's a 4 out of 10. It's not terrible, but I just don't really want to play it again. I probably won't be coming back to play this version of the game. That's right. I said this version of the game. With the fixes and updates that the Mole Port and Origins make, I'd say the game's not that bad with those versions. But if you truly want to play the definitive Sonic 1 experience, is Sonic Forever a perfect game? No, not at all. but it is leagues better than the original. Forever adds widescreen, allows you to remove the speed cap, making Sonic 1 control just as good as the later games, and man, it just looks great. You can tweak the game just to how you like it. All the sound effects and music just sound so crisp, and they even added new UI elements. There's even a time attack and arcade mode. They give you the option to add new moves and abilities from later Sonic games, and they even add new characters, but I won't be talking about them right now. I'll talk about them when they show up in future games. Does this exactly fix everything wrong with the game? No, not exactly. None of the level design has changed, so levels like Scrap Brain, Labyrinth, and Marble Zone are the exact same. And by that, they're not fun. Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about the Chaos moves and special stages. They suck. Yeah, that's about it. If you get all 6, you get the good ending. Whoa, so cool. Sonic Forever is a really, really good version of a game I find very tedious. But it easily makes what I think is a 4 out of 10 into an almost 8 out of 10 game for me. I would highly recommend Sonic Forever for newcomers and veterans alike. For me though, fuck, I am so tired of this goddamn game! I just found Sonic Forever earlier in the year, then Forces came out in the summer, so yeah, I played through the game twice, and then I had to play through the game twice again just for this video. And now when I review Origins, I'm gonna have to play it again! But for now, I am done with this game. The next video is gonna be on Super Mario Bros. 2, and I am super excited. See you in the next video. You know, in my first Mario video, I didn't really talk about how I was introduced to this series as a whole. I kinda forgot about it when writing and recording those last 2 videos. So before the actual review starts, I'm gonna talk about how I kinda got introduced to Super Mario Bros. 2 and the entire Mario series. The first console I ever owned was a Wii. One of the few games I had on it was Super Mario Galaxy. I absolutely fell in love with it, but I was never really good at the game. I don't think I even finished it until a few years ago when I got a new Wii. When it comes to the 3DS, I got 2 games with it. Super Mario 64 DS and New Super Mario Bros. 2. It's kind of sad my first experience with 2D Mario was New Soup. I remember watching a lot of Mario Party 9 compilations on YouTube, which led me to just more Mario content on YouTube. At some point I stumbled across these videos talking about these 8-bit 2D games. I had no idea that these old and outdated games were where the series started. But who cares about those old games? I have this new game. But even still, they're Mario, so I wanted to play them. Luckily, the 3DS had an online shop. I'm recording this on January 12th, so I don't know when the video will come out. Hopefully before the 3DS and Wii U shops are deleted. I didn't want to get the first one because, well, it's Mario 1. So, I got Mario 2 and 3. I played 3 first because, well, it looked much better than the first and second games. And man, I was bad. I'm working with a very limited memory here, but I do remember it being terrible. I hated Mario 3. And I haven't played it in a while. I mean, until the Mario 3 bit. But when it came to the second game, holy shit, this was awesome! I think I only got to the second world, and I just kept replaying those first 2. But now, after all this time, I'm gonna come back and fully finish this game now in 2023. 2020. Yeah, I recorded all the footage and wrote the script in like December, so... Super Mario Bros. 2 was released on June 3rd, 1986 on the Famicom Disk System, and... Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, there's 2 versions of Mario 2. The original Mario 2, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, as we call it here in the States, was only released in Japan for a few reasons. For one, it was basically just a level pack, and 2, they just thought it was too hard for American audiences.
Oh god.
Doki Doki Panic was released a year later on July 10th, 1987. It was a small platformer that was only released in Japan. After the original Mario 2 was released, they were already working on Super Mario Bros. 3. So, why not give American and European players a little game to play while waiting for the real sequel? So, on October 9th, 1988, Super Mario Bros. 2 was brought to the NES. You might be wondering, if this isn't the real Super Mario Bros. 2, then why aren't you just covering lost levels?
Fuck you.
We start off with, oh my god, multiple characters! Luigi was introduced in the 1983 arcade game, Mario Bros. And if you had another person with you playing the original Super Mario Bros., the second player would play as Luigi. I mean, come on, everyone knows Luigi. You love Luigi, I love Luigi, he's Luigi. But by this point in the series, he's just a recolor of Mario by this point. Our third playable character is Blue Toad. I didn't mention this in the first video, but when beating Bowser in the first 7 worlds, you save the Toad. Since there were so little characters to use, I assume they just want to have the Toad be playable. The last character we have is Princess Peach. You know, that block we saved in the last game. Again, I assume they added her because there weren't that many other options. Mario is the basic bitch of the crew. He plays exactly the same as he was in the first game, except he just feels so much better. He's much more precise to control when jumping and killing enemies. Hey, wait, what the fuck? Yeah, this is one of the many reasons why this game is considered the black sheep of the series. So if you can't kill these enemies by jumping on them, how do you kill them? Well, pressing the run button while on top of an enemy allows you to hold on to them, but it doesn't kill them. You kill enemies by tossing things at them. The main way you're gonna attack enemies is by pulling turnips from the ground. The concept of this seems much more tedious than the first game, but Mario 2 utilizes this combat system super well. The coolest thing with this is that, in some sections, there are multiple enemies in a row you're able to kill. Being able to kill up to 3 or 4 enemies is just so satisfying. Besides that, there's not much to defense when it comes to this game. We do still have power-ups though. The Mushroom and Star both return and work in about how they did in Mario 1. The Mushroom acts as sort of a health bar. Instead of being able to take 2 hits, you're able to take up to 4 hits. We have this clock that allows you to stop time for a few seconds. And the Power Block, which kills all enemies on screen. Coming back to our main characters, Luigi is mostly like Mario, except he can jump a bit higher and is much more slippery. Peach is much slower than the bros, but she can float for a little bit. What makes her completely unplayable for me is that she is so much slower at plucking objects from the ground. Toad is the hard mode of the game. He's much faster than the rest of the crew, but he has a terrible jump. In my opinion, I don't think it's really worth playing as the other 3 characters. I'm fine with them being there, but I just like having fun with the basic bitch, okay? Every character also has one new move. When holding down, you'll start charging up, and when you let go, you'll jump a little higher. I found it very situational. It just wasn't that useful to me in my playthrough.
Oh no!
The bastard. The bastard. The goddamn bastard. How dare you show your face when you don't even fucking exist yet? This game was the first appearance of many iconic and well-known enemies. Shy Guys are the main enemy of the game, with multiple variants. Ninjas also make their debut here. All they do is jump up and down. Bob-ombs and Pokies also appear here too. When it comes to bosses, Meowser is sort of an interesting boss. Meowser. Fuck it. Meowser is sort of an interesting boss. He throws bombs at you which take time to explode. During that waiting period, you can throw the bombs back. If you align yourself where the bombs are heading, you can catch them in midair. Triclide is this 3-headed snake that shoots fire at you, and you just throw stones at it. Fry Guy, a big fireball that just shoots fireballs. And Claw Grip is a big crab. Yep. Birdo is the mini-boss of the game. She shoots eggs at you, which you have to grab in midair and throw back at her. I just realized in this script I'm gonna say throw a lot. There's different versions of Birdo that shoot faster or shoot fire. Is Birdo like a species or something? You know, like Yoshi. Like, I was thinking because there are like multicolored Birdos, you know, and like... Wait, Yoshi. Oh my god, I just realized. Birdo's first appearance in the series, and Yoshi appeared in Mario World. Fuck, I didn't realize that. Fuck, she's already Yoshi. Although Mario 2 is about 2 to 3 hours longer than the first game, it has one less world. It's one of the few Mario games not to stick with the 8-world, 4-level structure. By the end of every level, instead of a flagpole, you go inside this fucking weird bird mouth thing. Quite a few levels in the game have you platforming up a tower or going through sand. While climbing up towers, you're usually dodging attacks from Shy Guys, Sniffets, and these electric balls called sparks. And yes, they can be killed. In some towers and in other levels, we have these locked doors which need keys. When you pick up the key... God damn it! I think World 2 is my least favorite world. Maybe because the quicksand makes the levels much slower, and these stupid fucking snakes always get me. Or maybe these parts where you have to go through the sand and it completely kills the pace of these 3 levels. As we get into the third world and oh my god, my eyes! The third world is where it starts to get much harder than the first 2 worlds. Is that a fucking flamingo? Not much to say about this world, but it is pretty fun. World 4 is, oh god, the Ice World? And I think it's one of my favorite worlds. Obviously, because the floor is ice, Mario is much harder and more slippery to control. But I don't know why. I just had a lot of fun playing through this world. Dodging so many enemies so quickly is just really satisfying to do. It reminds me of the Bullet Bill and Cheep Cheep levels from the first game, but much faster and much more tense. Level 3 of the 4th world really confused me at the beginning, because I had nowhere to go. The only thing I had was this small island and there was a Birdo, but then I realized. Yeah. World 4 is easily my favorite world in the game. It has some of the best levels in this game, and just overall some of the best ice levels in a game I've played. The slippery controls somehow give these levels such a fun challenge. Okay, you got this.
Communist piece of shit.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
World 5 isn't anything special, but it does have a nice color palette. For some reason, they just pull out a Mega Man Spike section out of nowhere. I mean, I like it, but why is it here? World 6 is... Wait, is what? Another goddamn sand world? Why? Why 2 sand worlds? Oh, that's just bullshit. Oh my god, this pot section. They give you no clue as to which pot has the key you need to open the door. I had to go into every single pot. At least we get a green Birdo at the end. We finally get to World 7 as we reach the clouds. Oh god, now they're bombing me? I don't know. There's just not that much to say about the rest of the game right now. World 7 just isn't that interesting to me. Well, I mean, it's in the clouds, it's kind of hard, and that's really it. Maybe because it only has 2 levels. The first one being outside the castle, and the second level being a gauntlet inside the castle. We end with a final fight between the big bad of the game, Wart. He's a big frog. And that's it. We did it. We beat the game and we saved the day. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a great game, and it easily tops the first game when it comes to quality. I really feel like this game gets overshadowed when people talk about 2D Mario. It's a great game. I know it's different compared to other 2D Marios, but I feel like this is an important game in Mario's history. I'm only saying this once. Play Super Mario Bros. 2. Not Lost Levels, not that, no, please don't. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. I was first introduced to Sonic with two games, Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic Colors. I loved Sonic Colors, but I was pretty bad at the game and only got like halfway through. But it was still pretty fun to me anyways. The game looked great and it was really fast paced. And Secret Rings, the less said about it the better. Back then, I didn't even know Sonic 1 existed until I got my 3DS. You know, I just realized I was introduced to classic Mario and Sonic on the 3DS. But this video isn't about Sonic 1, it's about Sonic CD. From what I remember, when I got an iPad for Christmas, I was incredibly excited. Being able to play fucking Sonic Dash on this big ass screen was mind-blowing. I head to the App Store to look for more games. And what's this? I see Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and this strange game I've never even heard of before, Sonic CD. You may be wondering, since Sonic 2 was released in 1992, a year after the first game, and Sonic CD was released in 1993, why am I not talking about Sonic 2 first?
Fuck you.
But actually, I want Sonic 2 to be like a really big video, because I have a lot to say about it. Also, because of Sonic Origins, it's confirmed that Sonic CD is a prequel to Sonic 2. Also, I'm just lazy. I want these videos to have a bit more of a structure now, so I'm just going to talk about the story. Well, the story introduction. Little Planet. A planet that appears at the last month of every year, right under Never Lake, and Sonic is just heading to see it. Dr. Eggman recently chained the planet to a couple of mountains, as he turned it into a gigantic fortress. There was someone else who also came to see Little Planet. It was a little girl called Amy Rose. But she didn't come here to see the giant fucking planet in the sky. She came here because she got a card reading from one of her tarot cards, saying that she would meet her knight in shining armor. And I wonder who it is. I wonder who it is. I'm going to talk about this more in other Sonic videos, but there were a lot of differences between the American and Japanese story manuals in the classic games. Like, for some reason, in the American manuals of Sonic CD, Amy's called Princess Sally. The Western team probably did this because Sally was an established character in the Sonic Sat AM cartoon, and maybe they wanted to tie it into the games for some reason. Or maybe it was just a localization error. As we're going to see throughout this series, localization errors are going to be a very, very big problem. At the end of the day, it's just your standard platformer. Go through the 7 zones of Little Planet and stop Eggman. But I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Oh, wait a minute! After its release on the Sega CD, it wasn't really that available to most people until it got re-released on the PC and the Gems Collection. For this video, I played the original Sonic CD on the Gems Collection. Emulated. And I'm gonna say this right here, I don't like Sonic CD. Well, I don't like the original Sonic CD. To me, it's on par with Sonic 1 when it comes to its quality. So, in my opinion, just don't play this version. There are many other versions that I'm going to talk about later that are better, like Origins, the 2012 remaster, or the Compilation. For most of this review, I am just going to be talking about the 2012 remaster on Steam. Also, real quick, because Sega fucking sucks, you can't buy it on Steam anymore. It's fucking stupid. There's also Sonic CD Restored, which again I will talk about later in the video as well. Starting off the game, we get a cool new opening. Something looks off here. Why is the video all zoomed in? And the top and bottom are cropped as well. I took the video files from Sonic CD Restored to show you how it's supposed to look like. And you can really see the differences when you put them together side by side. I can only assume they did this because they wanted the entire game to be in full screen, but it just makes all the cutscenes blurry and zoomed in, with a lot of the picture being cut out. Besides that, this is a really fucking cool opening.
If you're strong, you can fly, you can reach the other side of the rainbow. It's alright, take a chance, 'cause there is no circumstance that you can't handle. When you use your mind, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, keeps you running faster. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, save the planet from disaster. From the dark to the light, it's a supersonic flight, gotta keep it going. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, keeps you running faster. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, save the planet from disaster. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, spinning through the world in motion. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom.
The opening, ending, and credit animations were made by the Japanese studio Toei Animation. And man, I gotta give them so much credit. These cutscenes are some of the best things to have ever been made for this franchise. They're pretty simple, but they're also incredibly stylish. It's a perfect example of what classic Sonic is. I want to talk about these animations a little bit more, but we still have an entire game to cover, so I'll save this for later. The game has 7 zones: Palm Tree Panic, Collision Chaos, Tidal Tempest, Quartz Quadrant, Wacky Workbench, Stardust Speedway, and Metallic Madness Zone. Saving the level design for later. By God, these stages look great. Palm Tree Panic is your standard Green Hill Zone. The green palm trees, the yellowish brown checkered floorboard patterns, the blue skies, it's pretty standard for the start of the game. But it still looks really nice. Not much to say. It's simple, clean, and colorful. Everything a Sonic level should be. Thumbs up. And hey, Amy even waits for you at the end of the level to hug Sonic. Collision Chaos. Okay, where to start? Just like Springyard Zone in the last game, this feels like a beta Casino Net Zone, with all of the goddamn bumpers everywhere. I think this level really stands out in your mind with its bright pink color palette and all the neon signs everywhere. Tidal Tempest has a really cool background, with volcanoes exploding in the distance. I kinda love the piss color filter the level uses. It really makes it stand out compared to the other water levels in Sonic games, and just other games in general. While Quartz Quadrant is a pretty forgettable level in my eyes, I think this cave aesthetic is pretty cool. Well, I mean, besides that, there isn't really much to say about this level aesthetically or gameplay wise, which I'll get into later in the video. I'll talk about you later. I have a lot to say about this level. Stardust Speedway is easily the best looking level in the game. When it comes to how the level is designed, it's kind of a clusterfuck. But god damn, I love how it looks. It will never be not funny when I look at the platforms and loops in this level, and they're just big golden metallic trumpets. The background is just perfect. The big purple buildings are a great contrast to the yellow platforms. I just can't tell you how much I love this level, aesthetically. I don't really care for Metallic Madness. It's just a very boring level to look at and play. A very forgettable looking finale for a Sonic game. Well, it's better than Scrap Brain from the last game. Overall, this game just looks phenomenal. Although most of my footage comes from the 2012 remaster, just looking from some old footage, some YouTube videos, and playing the original version myself, it really shows how powerful the Sega CD was. Presentation-wise, every level in Sonic CD topped Sonic 1 in my opinion. But we're far from done from how these levels play, of course. We need to talk about that as well, obviously. And we'll get into that, well, right now. In the original Sonic CD, he feels just about how he is in Sonic 1, meaning he still kind of plays like shit. But hey, we still got the spin dash. Okay, let's just move back to the Steam version. Obviously, we keep the momentum gimmick from the last game, with a new addition to the moveset. When I was a little lad, a stupid, dumb little boy, I thought the Super Peel-Out was bad. I thought it sucked. I thought it was horrible. I thought it was dog shit. I mean, what was the point of using this? Sure, it made you go faster, but you'll just boost yourself into enemies and get hurt or even die. Why not just use the spin dash? It's easier to control and you won't get hurt because you're in a ball. The Super Peel-Out sucks. This was my mindset at the time, but through the years, after playing this game over and over and over and over again, I have learned something about this move. Something very simple. So simple that you would have to be a fucking dumbass to not figure out. As you can see, I was one of those dumbasses. After you release, immediately hold down and curl or jump into a ball. Sure, this doesn't protect you from spikes, but by that point, it's your fault you got hurt. This move gives a real risk-reward system when platforming. The Super Peel-Out is one of the best movement tools in the entire franchise. Instead of holding down and mashing the jump button, you do the opposite. You hold up while mashing the jump button. And once you release, you gain a massive boost of speed. If you're not using it the right place or time, you'll easily hurt yourself or even die. Spin Dash is a safer option. It's much easier to dodge enemies and obviously not get hurt, but it's slower. The Super Peel-Out is much better at keeping your speed and momentum, at the cost of being much harder to control. I love this move so much, and I think it's a shame that more 2D Sonic games do not have the Super Peel-Out. It is an incredible move that I love so much. But it doesn't matter how good a moveset is. If the level design is shit, then it's not going to be fun to play. Going back into Palm Tree Panic, I think the level makes a very good impression on the player on how the other levels are designed in the game. I love Green Hill, it's a great level, but it's pretty horrible about teaching the player about how the entire game is going to be. That being said, Palm Tree Panic is still a really fun, simple level. Collision Chaos. Oh boy. I know I just said Palm Tree Panic is very good about teaching the player about how the entire game is going to be, and that's mostly true. I don't hate Collision Chaos, but fuck, it's really annoying. Small spoilers for the Sonic 2 and 3 reviews, but I sorta hate Casino Night Zone and Carnival Night Zone. Whenever I see bumpers in a Sonic game, it almost completely ruins every fucking level they're in. Stuff like this just kills the pacing of levels when I'm just bouncing around everywhere. It sucks so much because these fucking bumpers are usually put in the most colorful and vibrant levels. Collision Chaos is an okay level, barely passable in my eyes. Honestly, the best part about this level is in the beginning, where Amy gets kidnapped by Tidal Tempest is actually a really fun level. Water levels in Sonic games, and just most games in general, tend to be pretty shit. Tidal Tempest manages to defy these stereotypes by actually being fun. I know, crazy, right? Fucking unheard of. It's not perfect, it is still a water level, and that means there are a lot of slow sections. But unlike Labyrinth Zone, instead of a 20-80 ratio of land to water, it's more of a 50-50 split. Oh my god, going fast in a Sonic game? Holy shit, I've never seen that before! And now, moving on to Quartz Quadrant, I don't really hate the stage. I mean, it does have a pretty fun gimmick, being that there are a bunch of conveyor belts everywhere, with some of them having switches to turn them back and forth. Although I think the stage is pretty decent, it's kind of forgettable compared to all of the other levels. As soon as I beat the boss, I immediately get fucking neuralized by the time the next level starts.
Sorry.
I know I said it a while ago, but Starter Speedway is the best looking level in the entire game. But when it comes to how it plays, it's kind of a clusterfuck. God damn, I love how this level looks. I love the art design of Starter Speedway, but this level sucks. It fucking sucks. It's just so ass! It's far from what I call a horrible level. Hell, it's not even the worst level in the entire game. As I said before, the stage looks great. It looks amazing. But it's kind of hard to tell what's a platform and what's just part of the background. There's just a bunch of springs and boost pads randomly placed around the level. And you just know how much I love getting my controls taken away from me. You know how much I love getting fucking bounced around, completely killing the pace of the level.
This game is fair as
Metallic Madness sucks dick. Okay, I'm over exaggerating. It's an okay level. But for the final few acts in the entire game, I kinda neglected to talk about a big gimmick of the game. Yeah, I forgot to talk about time travel. But I will get into it. But first, we need to talk about it. Wacky Workbench. Wacky fucking Workbench. Never in my life have I seen a level as atrocious as this one. Okay, before I get a goddamn migraine, I want to talk about the positives. Yeah, the positives. For one, it looks nice. Okay, that's about it. Okay, where do we start? You can't navigate the bottom of the floor because it just bounces you up, bashing your head into the ceiling and enemies. We have these electric currents, which on their own aren't too bad, but combined with the bouncing floor, makes it fucking agonizing. There's these things, I didn't even look them up, I don't even know what they are, but they freeze you in place. Even the small platforms are fucked up. Some of them lock you in a spinning motion, making it harder to make precise jumps. Okay, I'm done bitching now. Wacky Workbench is one of the worst levels in a 2D Sonic game, one of the worst levels in a Sonic game in general, and overall just one of the worst levels in a video game that I've ever played. I hope that the person that designed this level gets into their bed, finds one of the absolute best sleeping positions in existence, but they have to get up to pee. And when they go back into bed, they can never find that position, having to sleep uncomfortably the entire night, knowing that if they didn't forget to pee before going to bed, they wouldn't be so uncomfortable. Okay, I think I'll move on now. I'll just leave this level alone. For now. The bosses suck. Moving on. So look, I had this whole section on bosses and stuff, but to be honest, who cares? They all suck. They're all pretty terrible, honestly. Except for that treadmill one. I like that one. It's pretty funny. I like that one. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about the game. Something very important to the core gameplay and story of Sonic CD. Oh right! The big gimmick of the game. In every level there are multiple signs that say past and future, which allow you to travel, well, to the past and future. Once you go past one of these signs, you'll have the speed to travel to the future or the past. It's hard to keep your speed in some situations, because if you lose your momentum when running or just hitting a wall, you'll lose your chance of time travel and you'll have to find a new sign. On the bright side, most levels have these small little sections which I like to call time machines. Most of the time it usually consists of two springs next to each other, But time machines don't just have to be springs. It just has to be a section or the gimmick of a level that can help you build up speed fast. When you go into the past, you'll find these robot generators that can help you get the good ending. Or you could just go for something else. Just like in Sonic 1, if you hold on to 50 rings by the end of the level, you can enter a special ring, entering one of 7 special zones. Okay, I've been very conflicted on this. When I was younger, I loved these special stages. They weren't great, but hey, they were better than Sonic 1's. But as I got older, I started to absolutely hate these. Whenever I came back to play Sonic City, I dreaded having to do one of these when I wanted to get the good ending of the game. But now, when coming back to play these for this video, I don't know, they're okay, I guess. They have a 3D perspective. You need to destroy all the UFOs in each stage to gain a time stone. The biggest problem is the perspective of each stage. Because of this, there are times where you just overshoot or undershoot your jump because of how off it feels. Luckily, all the UFOs have a set pattern they take, so eventually you can catch them all. Overall, they're better than Sonic 1, but that's not a high bar to clear. If you don't want to spend your time on stupid glowing gems, you could just look for all the robot generators. I believe it's the best way to play Sonic City. There are 2 significant ways to go through the game. Basic bitch platforming, which is still pretty fun, or you can explore the levels. If you destroy every robot generator in every level, you get the good ending. I kinda think that's why you can go from the end of the level all the way back to the beginning. I think searching for generators is really fun, for most of the levels. Most of the generators are placed in pretty fun, simple, and unique placements in the level. But some of them, god damn it, I gotta talk about Wacky Workbench again. I promise you, this is my last complaint. I'm sorry, I really hate this level. For some reason, it takes longer to time travel in the PC version than it did in the original CD version. Combining that with the bouncy floor and almost no way to get enough speed to time travel, it makes Act 1's generator excruciating to get. Oh, and it gets worse. Of course, there's a hidden one in the level where you can barely stand without getting hit or bounced. Okay, stay with me on this one. Once you time travel, you gotta make your way all the way to the top of the level. Okay, so you see this big crusher here, right? Now, if you've played a video game, or you're not a fucking dumbass, you think it would kill you, right? Right? I can't with this fucking dog shit level! Okay. Besides that, I think hunting for generators is really fun, and it makes me appreciate how colorful these levels look. Oh, I missed one. That's fine. I got the good feature in Act 2. So, I'm good, right? Although there's a lot of problems with the level design, because a lot of levels are just big, messy clusterfucks, I still heavily enjoyed my multiple playthroughs way more than Sonic 1. I think the time travel gimmick is really unique and cool, but it feels very underutilized. Time traveling to the future is sort of useless when it comes to getting the good ending, and when it comes to gameplay, it's really underwhelming. Well, in gameplay. You'll see what I mean later. The physics and momentum of Sonic are tweaked just right to make him control much better than he did in the last game. If only the level design was better. If only. If only. If only. If only. If only. Video game movies are very much known for their incredible writing and quality.
Monkey!
There are not that many Nintendo movies because, well, you know. Besides Pokemon, Jesus Christ, one of the few other Nintendo movies is...
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
The Wizard was released on December 15th, 1989, a story about 3 kids traveling to California so they can compete in the Ultimate Video Game Championship. The movie is certainly something, but no one cares about the actual movie itself. There's only one reason why you'd watch this movie today.
Super Mario Brothers 3! You have 10 minutes, and the player with the most points wins!
Super Mario Bros. 2 sold over 7 million copies worldwide, with it becoming the 4th best-selling on the NES. Oh, and that our other one made about like 2 million, but who cares? This stupid Italian brings in the big bucks, so obviously they gotta make another one. The development of Super Mario Bros. 3 actually started in 1986, shortly after the release of Lost Levels, the original Super Mario Bros. 2 on the Famicom Disk System. The creator of Super Mario Bros., Shigeru Miyamoto, served as a director overseeing the game. The team behind the game wanted it to be played at an isometric angle. God, could you imagine what that'd have looked like? But they just decided to keep it at a normal 2D perspective. You can definitely see that the development team knew what they were able to do with the limited capabilities of the NES when looking at the sprite work. But we'll save the presentation for a later section of the video. If you haven't seen my last 2 Mario videos, it's good for me to let you know that I don't really have a lot of experience with classic or old Mario. Like when it comes to the NES all the way to the GameCube, I have little to no experience, aside from Sunshine, Mario World, and some of the GBA games. Again, as I said in my Mario 2 video, I didn't like Super Mario Bros. 3. In fact, I hated it. Like, this is one of the best NES games, one of the best Mario games, this game, but now I am fully gonna finish this game in this review. Note that at this part of the script I haven't played the game, so yeah. After finishing the game and recording all the footage, let's just jump right into it. When it comes to the overall presentation of the game, The sprite work of the game has majorly improved since the last 2 games. All the enemies, blocks, and power-ups look really nice. Mostly. I'm not really a huge fan of the color palette, but I get why it looks like this. Most NES games have pretty simple or pretty shit color palettes, and with Mario 3 having some pretty detailed sprites for the NES, I understand why the color palette's so simple. With all that being said, I still don't like its color palette. It just looks too dark and muddy. But let's actually talk about the sprites themselves. Obviously, Mario 3 sprites are much more detailed and overall bigger than Mario 1, especially with Mario himself. You can actually tell he has a mustache. Overall, I think the sprites look great. It just has a really shitty color palette. The music is... wait, the music. Holy shit, this game actually has music! There's actually more than 2 tracks this time. We've got as much as a unique track for all 8 world maps, which makes me very happy. The music barely ever gets dull and repetitive, unlike the first 2 game soundtracks. Most of Mario 3's soundtrack is very catchy and pretty overall great to listen to. If you remember my original video on Mario 1, I wasn't very kind to the controls. They overall felt stiff and finicky. I just didn't like the physics and the feeling of how the game played. But now when it comes to how 3 plays, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's better. Leagues better than the first game. Being able to turn in the air alone makes it feel so much better. Mario is so much faster than he was in both of the other games. There's even a meter to showcase how fast you're going, which also connects to a few other power-ups. There's still one thing I want to talk about when it comes to how Mario controls. As I'm writing and recording this, I'm not sure if I would call this a positive or a negative. In Mario's 1 and 2, Mario felt a lot more floaty, to me at least. In the first game, Mario was slippery and clunky, which is why I didn't like how he played in that game. But in Mario 2, his traction was massively improved, which is why it was a lot more fun to control in that game. Now in 3, he feels much heavier. He has an improved jump height, but he falls like a goddamn brick. It's not necessarily a bad change, but I just personally like how Mario 2 controls more. But in a 2D Mario game, it's not just about the physics. It also needs to have good power-ups. The Mushroom, Fire Flower, Star, and 1-Up reappear, with quite a few more joining as well. The Super Leaf, and the Tanuki suit. probably one of the most iconic and well-known power-ups in the series. When the meter at the bottom is full, you'll be able to fly for a limited amount of time. Even without a full meter, you can still glide in the air if you just fucking demolish the jump button. My only big problem with it is the actual tail. And besides making Mario a furry, it's supposed to give you another way of attacking. The thing is, it has such a small hitbox and such a long startup, you shouldn't really use it unless you literally have no other options. Oh, and the P-Wing gives you infinite flight. If you keep mashing, of course. The hammer suit is really cool.
If I had one!
I don't know if it's because of the route I took throughout the game, but I could not find one in any level. I was able to get one from a Toad House, and it was in my inventory, but for some reason, I wasn't able to select it. Oh, one quick detour. On the map there are some Toad Houses that can give you items for your inventory and give you an edge in the levels. And finally, the frog suit. The fucking frog suit. It allows you to swim underwater. The power-up does its job well, but it shows a huge problem when it comes to how Mario controls underwater. Overall, I think the controls and physics of the game work quite well. In fact, I really like how Mario feels. But the swimming sucks. I talked about this in my Sonic 1 video, about how most people, including me, don't like water levels because they slow down the game and kill the pace. But here's the thing, it's not that the levels themselves suck, it's how the character controls and feels. You know what? I might actually make a video about water levels, because it's interesting how many games actually mess this idea up. Overall, the gameplay loop and control you have over Mario is really satisfying, although I do still prefer how Mario 2 controls. So far I've been pretty positive on how I see Mario 3, but I do think there is just a teensy tiny bit of a problem with the game. Just a tiny problem.
Here's a way, kind of peace now, face reality, never be charity. The enemy you're fighting covers all society. Damn right, mommy's not here, gonna fight all night. Right here, shadow 10 o'clock direction. Seize the moment, destroy the nation. You rhyme slow motion, give me motivation. Breathe out now, and then I'm a rival. Round up around, spit out, all over. Rhyme like a rolling stone, come in the crowd. Watch out the moon, they diss you loud. This was this sound, and bombs whole ground. So round up, don't ease your pace, cause enemies brutal. Moment of truth, there ain't no truth. You're the only one world, one love. But the battle goes on, shadows all mass destruction.
Oh yeah, down, down, baby, baby, down, oh yeah, down, baby, baby, down, oh yeah, down, baby, baby,
Yeah, it's just a tiny bit hard. Mario 1 and 2 weren't that hard. 1 had its bullshit moments like some of the later castles, but overall it's still relatively easy to get into for new players. Now, when it comes to Mario 3, the main reason I hated Mario 3 for such a long time was because of, well, how kind of bullshit it is. Also, reminder, for the longest time I played this on the 3DS. Also, I'm just pretty bad at video games in general. Some of the best levels in the game tend to be pretty open and giving you plenty of room to gain speed. When it comes to the auto-scrollers, they're okay, I guess. I find some of the early ones pretty fun though. A lot of the early ones do a very good job of being fast enough to keep you on your toes, but they also give you enough time to show you what's coming in front of you. One of the biggest negatives, and positives with the game, is its level design as a whole. It's sort of like a complex puzzle. Although most of the levels are your standard go from left to right affair, sometimes there are more unique levels that act like mazes. Levels like 3 Castle, 6 5, 7 5, 7 Castle, and 8 Castle. Fuck that one specifically. My main problem is that they get rather tedious and boring because, well, as a first-time player, technically, you're just going to be guessing pathways until you make your way to the end. Luckily, they're the only levels that do this, so that's good, I guess. But now when it comes to the actual, really bad levels, the tank and airship levels. I hate these levels. Not because they're extremely hard, although they can be extremely bullshit at points. For one, earlier in the video, I talked about how I didn't really like the color palette of this game. These stages are they just look awful. They're also auto-scrollers. Yay. These levels are too slow to be running straight through, and they're too fast for you to think about your next move with all the cannons shooting at you. And the worst part, all of these levels are just the same, and the bosses are ass. Boom Boom is the jobber of the game, a mini-boss used for all of the bosses. To show you how shit all the bosses are, here's Boom Boom from World 1, and here's Boom Boom from World 8. A real challenge, am I right? The Koopalings. Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, and Ludwig von Beta. Koopa! They all make their first appearance in the series with this game. Oh, and look at that, they all suck too! You can jump on their shells and bounce off them. They're spiky shells. Like, what the fuck? That literally takes all the difficulty away from the bosses. At least Bowser's fight is somewhat interesting. He jumps in the air and tries to crush you, with you needing to lead him into the middle of the brick wall block so he can fucking kill himself. Unironically, Bowser from the first game was a better boss than every single 1 in 3. This game has such a weird difficulty curve. The beginning is pretty standard for most Mario games, but then it just decides to pull out some random bullshit out of nowhere, but then goes back into easy mode a few stages after. And the bosses are just mind-numbingly easy. I'm not saying the entire game is bullshit. I feel a lot of the deaths in my playthrough were mostly my fault. It's just that this game is just not very good for newcomers. Why do people love Super Mario Bros. 3? Why does Nintendo keep referencing and taking things from it? Why is it constantly seen as one of the best NES games of all time, and just overall one of the best Mario games of all time? Well, for one, it's the 3rd best-selling NES game with over 17 million copies worldwide. Nostalgia. When I see a lot of people talk about how Mario 3 is the best game in the series, they're generally much older and mainly grew up with those older games. But mainly, I think the biggest and main reason for why it's so fondly remembered is, well, it's just a pretty well-made game. Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of, if not the most polished game on the NES. A lot of the levels in the game get very creative at points, and give us a lot of fun gimmicks, so it can switch up the formula every few levels. Even though I heavily criticize the unfairness and difficulty of the game, there's still a great mix of satisfaction when finally beating a difficult level. I genuinely want to go back to the game so I can get better at it. I like Mario 3. I don't think it's the best game in the series, but hey, it's really damn good. A solid 7 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, and see you next time. The 1980s were a very special year for horror movies. Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, Poltergeist, Christine, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Shining, The Thing, Cannibal Holocaust. Don't watch that one. But there's a very special movie that came out in 1981. A movie that would truly define my love for horror movies. Saturday the 14th. The Evil Dead was released on October 15th, 1981. Directed and written by Sam Raimi in his directorial debut, this movie started a long-running franchise, with many sequels, comics, games, reboots, and even a TV show. What's crazy to me is that this movie had an extremely small budget of $350,000, and easily it made it back, grossing over $2 million in the States and nearly $30 million worldwide. I'm gonna say this right now, I love Evil Dead. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time, with Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead Rise being some of my favorite horror movies of all time. Army of Darkness and the Evil Dead remake are also really good. Eventually we'll get to those, the show, the games, and even the comics. But for now, the only one we're talking about is the one about a cabin in the woods. Wait, wrong movie. We start the movie where we meet our main leads. Scott, played by Richard Delamincor, Linda, played by Betsy Baker, Shelley, played by Teresa Tilly, fuck, I'm really bad with names. Cheryl, played by Ellen Sanders, and Cheryl's brother, Ash, played by Bruce Campbell. Fuck, I'm really bad with names. Fuck. The movie immediately sets an unsettling tone by showing you someone, or something, is already in the forest, by cutting between the group and the camera swaying through the trees. Now, you might be wondering, why are a group of teenagers going into a random forest?
Hey, Scotty, what's this place like anyway?
Well, the guy that's renting it says it's an old place. A little run down, but it's right up in the mountains. And the best part is we get it so cheap.
Yeah, why are we getting it so cheap?
Well, I don't know. Might be in real bad shape.
They eventually cross an extremely safe and sturdy bridge.
A rock.
I'm sure that's not going to be important later. Another short scene I really like is when they're driving. A short one-shot take as they slowly drive towards the cabin. You can see a few branches hitting the camera. Another notification that shows us, the audience, that they were doomed from the beginning. Nighttime hits as they stay in the cabin. We see Cheryl sketching a clock on the wall, but something goes wrong as soon as the clock stops. We move on to the group sitting down to eat, which gives us some good bonding moments with the characters.
As a Greek friend of mine once said, he said, No, okay. Nis. Tu tarim.
Which means?
Party down!
The cellar door opens by itself, and they all decide to go check on it. Since they're all pussies, Scott decides to go check by himself. As the rest of the group start to get worried, eventually Ash goes down too. We then get a 3-minute scene as Ash slowly searches through the cellar. The music slowly rises as Ash carefully peers through each room with nothing but leaky pipes as the background noise. After Ash and Scott meet back up with each other, Scott decides to show Ash a desk full of trinkets. A poster that references The Hills Have Eyes made by Wes Craven, a shotgun, which Scotty points at Ash with absolutely no sense of gun safety, you fucking asshole, and a strange book with a face on it, as well as a strange looking dagger.
This kind of looks like your old girlfriend.
The two eventually go back upstairs, bringing the book and dagger with them, as well as a recorder they found. Ash decides to play the tape with everyone.
It has been a number of years since I began excavating the ruins of Kandar with a group of my colleagues. Now my wife and I have retreated to a small cabin in the solitude of these mountains. Here I continued my research undisturbed by the myriad distractions of modern civilization and far from the groves of academe. I believe I have made a significant find in the Kandarian rune, a volume of ancient Sumerian burial practices and funerary incantation. It is entitled Naturan de Manta, roughly translated, Book of the Dead. The first few pages warn that these enduring creatures may lie dormant, but are never truly dead. They may be recalled to active life through the incantations presented in this book. It is through recitation of these passages that the demons are given license to possess the living.
Cheryl decides to stop the recording, as it's clearly making her uneasy. Scott, the asshole, decides to turn the recording back on. As soon as he continues it, the man on the recording starts chanting, as something starts emerging from the ground. Cheryl starts to get more and more distressed as it continues, and finally...
Cheryl, where are you going? I can't believe this. Scott, you knew not to play that. I mean, come on, you knew it was upsetting you. You just don't know when you're taking something too far. Hey, don't give me that. You were playing it too. You could have shut it off. Hey, big deal. She's nuts. I mean, it's just a joke. Come on. Jesus Christ. She acts like she's 3.
Later on, we see Ash holding a small box while waiting for Linda. As Linda opens the box, we see it's a magnifying glass necklace.
Ash, how sweet of you.
Oh, I guess she's happy with it, I guess. Oh, one more thing. Remember the scene for later. After that, we move to an outside perspective as the entity that's watching Ash and Linda moves towards Scotty and Shelly, and eventually goes to Cheryl. We can hear a voice chanting in the background, and so does Cheryl. We can clearly see that the thing from outside has been targeting her ever since the beginning. Because this is a horror movie, Cheryl decides to go outside and check it out. Okay. The next scene is actually very well done, to be honest. The moon looming over the background, the fog slowly overshadowing everything, and nothing but crickets as background noise. And it slowly rises up until...
I know someone's out there. I heard you. I heard you in the cellar.
Strange noises that keep coming from the darkness as Cheryl gets more and more frightened. We cut back and forth between Cheryl and the entity knocking down trees as the music gets more and more rampant. Fuck. I'm not redoing that. Fuck it. Ugh. The branches slowly come towards Cheryl and start ripping off her clothes. She screams as the branches wrap over her arms and neck, and okay, I'm gonna stop there. When it comes to the content of the movie, it's a really well done scene. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable and horrified. But there are very good reasons for why people don't like this scene. The tree rape scene... I wrote that into the fucking script. The tree rape scene was one of the most controversial parts of the movie. And as I said before, I think the scene does what it's intended to do. It's supposed to showcase how horrifying and evil these things are. It's clearly meant to make the audience feel shocked and disgusted. But even then, there are a few problems. The way it's shot is also kind of distasteful, with her moaning and multiple shots of her exposed breasts. Oh my fucking god, I can't fucking read my own fucking script. I was talking about Mario for my last video. Like, the next video was supposed to be Kirby. It was supposed to be Kirby. But no, I needed a horror video. So after Mario, fucking Evil Dead. Fucking Evil Dead after Mario. I needed a video for October, and the Kirby video was taking too fucking long. fuck? Also, the scene just feels very tonally disconnected from the entire film. Sam Raimi himself even regretted putting the scene in. The weirdest part about this scene is its history throughout the series. Spoilers for the later Evil Dead reviews. It's referenced in Evil Dead 2 and the There's an indirect reference in Evil Dead 2 and a very clear direct reference in the Evil Dead remake. Anyways, what was I talking about again? Oh, right. Cheryl escapes the trees as she makes her way back to the cabin. The scene gets more and more tense as she reaches the door and desperately tries to open it. Ash, obviously being concerned, asks her what's wrong.
In the woods did this to you?
No, it was the woods themselves. They're alive, Ashley. The trees. They're alive.
She eventually convinces Ash to drive her back into town. Once they get in the car, Ash tries to start it.
I know it's not gonna start. It's not gonna let us leave.
Ash slowly drives back, but for some reason stops and gets out of the car. Eventually, Cheryl gets out of the car to look for Ash. As Cheryl walks around the darkness, she finds a horrifying sight. Cheryl's desperate cries really make this scene, along with the only light source coming from the headlights of the car, and the music. The music really helps as well. Ash and Cheryl go back to the cabin, with Ash grabbing the recorder so he can finish it on his own.
Become host to a Kandarian demon. I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment. I would leave now to avoid this horror, but for myself, I have seen the dark shadows moving in the woods, and I have no doubt that whatever I have resurrected through this book is sure to come calling for me.
While he's listening to that, Linda and Shelley play a card game in the background.
Diamonds. No, wait, hearts.
Oh my God, 7 of hearts, you're right.
Hey, Ash, I guessed the card right.
Yeah, truly amazing, Linda.
As they continue, Cheryl starts immediately guessing the cards that Shelley has.
4 of hearts. 8 of spades.
As her voice starts to get harsher and deeper, you probably know what's going to happen next. Cheryl's body moves around like a puppet as the demon taunts and threatens them.
Awakened us from our ancient slumber. You will die like the others before you. One by one, we will take you.
Cheryl's body drops to the floor, lifeless. As Ash and Linda try to check up on Cheryl, her arm grabs a pencil, and somehow, with 2 people next to her, no one sees it. She suddenly pops back up and She suddenly pops back up and fucking stabs Linda in the fucking foot. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. She easily overpowers Ash when he tries to grab her, throwing him into a shelf that fucking falls on top of him. And even Scott gets shoved away when he tries to stop her. Scotty's finally able to subdue the possessed Cheryl with the butt of an axe and a kick to the fucking face, which sends her straight into the cellar. With Cheryl possessed and Linda out of commission, the other 3 discuss what they should do, with Shelley taking the situation very well. She tries to clear her head in her room all alone, and I'm pretty sure you know what happens next. Hearing that noise, Scott decides to go check up on Shelly. After looking for a while, it seems that Shelly just disappeared. With that, the possessed Shelly claws at Scotty. He then throws Shelly into the goddamn fireplace. While Shelly continues to strangle Scott, Ash tries to get her off, immediately failing in the process. Man, this Ash guy is pretty pathetic. It's a miracle how he's managed to survive for this long. Shelly then grabs a dagger that was left on the floor and tries to stab Scott, with him retaliating with his own knife. Shelly then bites through her own damn wrist as the two look on in horror. The gore and sound design in the scene is fantastic, but I'll discuss the practical effects for later on. I'll just say for now, the effects of this movie are its biggest strength and weakness. You know, I got kind of sick during the recording of this video, so just bear with me. My voice is really killing me at this point. Scott then grabs Shelly's arm and stabs her with it. It's seemingly able to take her down. She then starts spilling out blood and milk for some reason. After that, Scotty decides to go check the body. Scott begs Ash to hit her with the axe, but since Ash is a pussy, he just stands there in pure shock. Scott goes fucking ham on Shelly as he chops off all her limbs. What's really cool about this shot here is that they had multiple people sticking out their limbs from holes in the floor. Ash and Scott then decide to go take the mangled corpse of Shelly outside and bury it. The two then decide to talk about what they should do next, with Scotty just wanting to leave as soon as possible.
I think what's the leg getting out of here? Scott, we can't take Linda anywhere with a leg like that. We don't even know if there is any other way back besides the bridge.
Ash brings up that Linda is still injured, with Scotty still not giving a shit. Real quick, let's just stop here for a sec and talk about the acting. I will give the movie credit where it's due. I love the Deadites in this movie. But wait, they're never called Deadites in this movie. They're extremely creepy and a highlight for the movie. Cheryl especially is great, and we'll get even more great scenes later on. But for most of the entire movie, a lot of the dialogue is pretty stilted. I'll try not to harp on this too much because the movie is extremely low budget, with all of these actors pretty much being first timers, so I don't expect A-grade acting, but scenes like this really stick out to me. Anyways, Scott leaves on foot, leaving Ash all alone. Ash then decides to go check up on Linda. With Linda possessed, Ash and Scott, who just came back after he was injured, are the only ones left. With Scotty basically out of commission, we now focus all of our attention to Ash. With the two Deadites crackling like crazy, and Scotty basically at death's door, we start to see Ash's sanity start to really crack, fucking bitch slapping Linda over and over just to make her stop. Eventually, Ash decides to use the shotgun until... Linda is seemingly normal, as well as Cheryl.
Ashley, help me. Let me out of here. Ashley? Ash, help me. Let me out of here. I'm all right now. I'm all right now, Ashley. I'm all right. Unlock this chain and let me out.
Cheryl.
I'm all right now, Ashley. Come on, lock the chain and let me out. I'm all right now. It's your sister, Cheryl.
Oh, you bastards. Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
I love the Deadites. Although they get even better later on in the series, they're still really good here too. They have a really good mix of being campy and funny, but also creepy and terrifying. Ash just decides to drag Linda outside and just leave her out there. Okay, I guess. Getting water for Scotty, Ash is hopeful that they can all leave by sunrise.
Sun will be up in an hour or so, and we can all get out of here together. You, me, Linda, Shelley. No, not Shelley. We'll all be going home together. Wouldn't you like to be going home? Bet you'd like that, wouldn't you? Scott?
We have now entered the final portion of the movie, with Ash as our definitive lead. He and Linda get into a fight with Cheryl even assisting a bit. Ash is finally able to stab Linda with the dagger, causing her to spurt out more milk again. Why? Ash brings Linda to the shed, and he restrains her. And then we get to see the chainsaw. Something very special for this series later on, but for now, as he's about to dismember Linda, he chickens out when he looks at the necklace. Because it's really hard to butcher the body of the woman you love. Without dismembering her, Ash starts digging a grave to bury her. With Cheryl escaping, we get a scene referencing that bit earlier in the movie. After Ash buries Linda, he sees the necklace, and he goes to... You know, I think it's time to talk about the effects of this movie. They're good. Mostly. The low budget actually makes the makeup of the Deadites work really well, giving an off and unsettling look, especially when it comes to the eyes. What's funny about this is that the actors were basically blind when wearing those contacts. But there are some points where the makeup doesn't really look that good. Sometimes they just decide to change the entire face at points, just like the scene we're talking about. Oh yeah, Ash gets his leg fucked by Linda, with him retaliating with a giant piece of fucking wood. Ash finally ends off Linda by decapitating her with a goddamn shovel. Holy shit. But that doesn't even stop her, with her body still attacking him and her head just taunting him. Ash makes it back to the cabin and discovers that Cheryl escaped from the cellar. He eventually finds and shoots her. Oh my god, kill it with fire! After decimating her hand, he goes to lock every door in the cabin, with one of them being in the cellar. As he goes down there, he sees that one of the pipes is leaking blood. The blood from the pipe just pours over Ash as he screams, and blood just starts leaking everywhere, which finally leads us to the point in the film where the entire house just starts fucking with Ash, mentally torturing him. As Ash heads upstairs, he tries searching the house at first, but is immediately interrupted, giving us this excellent shot right here. The windows open and close on their own as Ash starts to really lose it, screaming. We get some great sound design here with the bars having a wavy sound to it as Ash walks under them. Finally, Ash looks at a mirror, trying to touch it. With Ash just about losing it, he remembers that he has the necklace in his pocket, and if only slightly, it brings him back to reality. Then he's grabbed with these ugly-ass looking arms, and not creepy and gory, they just look bad. While Ash is dealing with Cheryl and blocking the door, Scott returns as a Deadite and immediately attacks Ash. He throws a small desk at Scotty, with the book being on top of it. While being choked by Scott, Ash decides to retaliate by digging his fingers into Scott's fucking eye holes. Holy shit! His unholy screams really put the brutality in this scene. Ash sees the book burning and he goes to grab it, but Scott stops him by dragging him back. Ash grabs the necklace while being dragged and tries to grab the book with it. Scotty just digs into Ash's leg while Cheryl hits him with a fire poker. Ash finally gets the book and is finally able to toss it into the fire. The two just start fucking melting in stop motion, which look ugly as shit. Well, in a good way. With this weird pus coming from the bodies, it seems like the nightmare is finally over. With that, the nightmare is actually finally over. Ash walks outside to see the sun over the horizon, finally ending the Evil Dead. But we just can't have Ash rest yet, can we? In first person, the being heads towards Ash in this awesome one-shot taken as the camera flies through the house, attacking Ash and cutting to black, ending the Evil Dead. Evil Dead is a very important franchise to me. I've watched a few horror movies before these, but none of them have truly felt as special as this trilogy. But this first movie isn't perfect. It's very dated. The dialogue and acting are very stilted and overall just isn't very good. The effects and gore are a mixed bag. When they're good, they're phenomenal, but when they're bad, they're god-awful. Even with all that, I still enjoy this movie. There are very few horror movies in my opinion that can rival the first one when it comes to its scares and tension. And honestly, the low budget honestly helps it in this case. The Deadites are fucking nasty when it comes to their constant taunting and laughing, but that just makes them great antagonists to watch. The movie is just very campy, but in a fun way. It's very fun just to rewatch. So, 7 out of 10. It's far from perfect, but I can't help but loving it all the same. On April 27th, 1992, a small little game was released for a very popular handheld system, the Game Boy. This game was called Kirby's Dream Land. Masahiro Sakurai and HAL Laboratory developed the game for the handheld. It was designed to be a simple and easy to pick up platformer for players who have little to no experience with 2D platformers. Its simple and easy to understand gameplay gave rise to what is now a very popular franchise. The Kirby franchise is just about over 30 years old, with many mainline platformers and spin-offs. And although Kirby Dream Land has a very important role to play in that, I'd say its sequel, Kirby's Adventure on the NES, is the main reason why Kirby is so popular till this day. Kirby's Adventure was released on March 23rd, 1993 in Japan, and May 1993 for Northern American audiences. It came pretty late in the NES's lifespan, which went until 1995 in the US. You may be asking why I'm starting with Adventure and not Dreamland. Well, for one, I don't think the first game has enough for like a full video, but I will cover it with Dreamland 2 and 3 later on. And also, I just never played it. The game takes place in a world called Dreamland. And look, I'm gonna say dream a lot, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. The Fountain of Dreams, a fountain that creates dreams for all the people in Dreamland. That was a sentence I just said. King Dedede, the self-proclaimed King of Dreamland. The fucking asshole decides to bathe in the Fountain of Dreams. Also, the dipshit broke the Star Rod. The Star Rod is an artifact that creates magic that flows into the fountain. But now that it's broken, no one in Dreamland can dream. This causes Kirby to wake up and go to the Fountain of Dreams, which starts Kirby's adventure. The graphics are very detailed for an NES game. I talked about how I don't really like the color palette of Super Mario Bros. 3, and most NES games in general, but Kirby is an exception to that. Kirby and the other enemies have such a simple design, it really helps the background stand out compared to other games on the console. The backgrounds are full of color and detail. Most NES games feel very abstract or boring. Plain, boring blue or black backgrounds, maybe a few clouds, and I get it. The NES is far from a powerful console, and most developers obviously focus on gameplay. In fact, copy abilities weren't in Kirby's Dream Land, only being able to throw out stars after inhaling something. Not all the enemies in the game give you an ability, but quite a few do, and in total we have 25 copy abilities. Technically 26, but we'll get to that later. We have Backdrop, Ball, Beam, Crash, Cutter, Fire, Fireball, Freeze, Hammer, High Jump, Ice, Laser, Light, Mic, Mix, Sleep, Spark, Star Rod, Stone, Sword, Throw, Tornado, UFO, and Wheel. Honestly, this is super impressive for such a small game. But let's get into the positives and negatives. Abilities like Fire and Beam can kill many enemies in front of you. Fire and Spark are just good ways to killing enemies around you, although it does feel like some abilities just should be like together. Fire and Fireball, Freeze and Ice, Backdrop and Throw, all of these abilities should go together, but aren't for some reason. Then there are some okay ones like Stone, Wheel, High Jump, Tornado, and Hammer. These powers are okay, but are more substantial compared to some others. Then there's Ball, which does not do shit. And then there's Sword. Even from the beginning of the series, there's always been some amount of favorism towards this ability. The fact that you get a unique attack in the air puts it as one of the best abilities. Also, swords are really cool, and I am very biased. Overall, I really like how the copy abilities are utilized in this game. The amount of unique ways you can use these powers to find secrets and make fights easier, as well as just using them in general, makes them just incredibly fun to use. The standard game in general is also just really fun. Kirby himself can jump an infinite amount of times, and you'd think that would make him OP as shit. Although you can just fly over most of the stages, I wouldn't really recommend that. For one, it's extremely slow. You might as well just run through the levels normally because it's faster. Speaking of OP, I want to talk about the biggest thing about this game. Its difficulty. Kirby's Adventure is not a hard game. It's a game made for babies! But just because the game is made for younger audiences doesn't mean it has no value to older players. The fact that it's so easy makes it kind of hard for more experienced players, because the amount of times I died or got hit is kind of embarrassing, to be honest. The difficulty of the game honestly fluctuates depending on what copy ability you're using, especially when it comes to the bosses. There are a lot of bosses and mini-bosses in this game, varying in difficulty and quality, and some of them provide a very decent challenge, and there are some that can get very annoying and tedious, and there are some that can be extremely cheesed, and most of it is based on what power you use against each enemy. Not every boss is bad or easy. Motherfucking Meta Knight. This asshole constantly keeps showing up, and he keeps sending his lackeys to kill you throughout the game. And now, you can finally have a one-on-one duel. You know, nothing happens if you pick up the sword. Like, I waited there for a while, and nothing happens. He's just waiting for you to pick it up. So, the fight. It's okay, I guess. It's a decent skill check for the player, and gives me more evidence that the developers were extremely biased towards the sword ability. To be honest, I really only liked this fight because it had a pretty good build-up throughout the game, and who and what Meta Knight will become later in these games, and also how the fight ends. But at the end of the day, he is still probably the second best boss. Now, I think there's a big reason for why this game is so special. Its charm and presentation. This game's just so fucking cute, man. Kirby's little dance at the end of every stage and every boss. They even have little animations when transitioning through worlds. It's all so fucking adorable. There's also a few mini games outside of the main levels. Quick Draw. You shoot your opponent before they can shoot you. You can get all their hats if you kill them all. Egg Catcher. DDD throws eggs and bombs at you, with the player needing to catch as many eggs as you can without eating any of the bombs. After going through the 7 worlds, you finally make it to the Fountain of Dreams. We face off against King DDD. After kicking his ass, he pleads with us not to bring the Star Rod back to the fountain. So it turns out that DDD wasn't that much of a bad guy. You see, a being called Nightmare took control of the Fountain of Dreams so he could take over Dreamland. To prevent this, DDD decided to destroy the Star Rod and spread it all over the world so Nightmare couldn't obtain its power. But now, because of us, Nightmare reappears and successfully steals the power of the Fountain of Dreams. And now, we move to the final boss. The final copy ability is the Star Rod. We use it to shoot stars at Nightmare in this bullet hell section. He also shoots stars back at you in multiple different variations. Some of the patterns are kind of bullshit, but it's still pretty fun. And then we end with the second phase on the moon. It's without a doubt the best boss in the game. The Star Rod works just like in the first phase, but now it has a small hitbox when jumping. Nightmare flies all over the screen, teleporting around and shooting stars at you. He's also invincible most of the time, but a lot of his attacks do leave him open for you to get a hit on him. The fight is really fun, but I'm extremely disappointed that all of the other bosses before this one were extremely underwhelming. Once we finally beat Nightmare, we see the moon get a hole blown in it as Kirby flies away. Meeting up with DDD, the two part ways, as Kirby returns the Star Rod to the fountain, which ends Kirby's adventure. I really like this game. It's charming, its controls are so much smoother than most NES games. The music's pretty catchy, and the graphics and backgrounds are very impressive for a game on this system. Aside from the slowdown, the weak bosses, and a few shitty powers, I'd say this game is pretty damn good. A 7 out of 10 for me describes this game, although I will say the series gets substantially better later on. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, and see you next time.